Welcome to the 10-day retreat. I'm very proud, very happy of you guys. I was thinking about myself when I was in my 20s. I got ordained as a monk when I was 20. Not that you guys need to do that, but I was in India, so it was sort of appropriate. And then I did, within the second year, I did 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 Vajrasattva, 100,000 Guru Yoga and such. But what was interesting is that I would say 90% of my practice was based on faith. Just I believed in what I was doing. And although I did have some education, but it was just a big feeling. And so I can say as we work with ourselves and try to become more enlightened about ourselves, that it is a process of both practice and then understanding what we've done with ourselves. My joke is that having completed, the 3-year retreat along with 2 years prior to that, I had no idea what I'd done to myself. And so I will share that in the sense that doing practice and stuff, often we might not see what the result is, but things are changing. And then the big one is that when you're 40 or 50 years old, then the fact that you've been practicing for 10, 20 or 30 years shows up very, very easily. Not sort of in a vivid way, but just, hey, you feel totally different about yourself. So congratulations. Now, it's very important to understand that in Buddhism, it's not like penance. That's completely ridiculous. In Buddhism, we have Buddha nature and we're developing that. So I like to call it sort of the ultimate creativity, that basically the basis of this creative practice is you, the flow of your consciousness and such. And the creativity is basically learning how to deal with yourself more effectively. And so what gets in the way of that, or the interferences for that, are our previously accumulated habits or previously accumulated karma that we might have and such. And so therefore, a preliminary retreat it's a tidying up past history, but it's so that the creative process can be more successful. And I'll give you an example. So in 1972, 73, I did 9 months of retreat, of which I did the Vajrasattva prostrations and everything. Okay, fine and dandy. Thought, okay, everything's wonderful. Then in 1978, I went to Lingren Rinpoche and I asked him if I could do the 3-year retreat. He said yes. And then he said, please do all the preliminaries again. I was like, okay, I thought I'd done enough. And this is 5 years later, with me having done lots of teachings and done other short retreats and stuff like that. So I went back and yes, I did another, I shouldn't do another 100,000. I did another 50,000 prostrations, another Vajrasattva retreat. I had already done multiple Guru Yoga retreats. But the point why Lingren Rinpoche wanted me to do that was it guaranteed more success. And so think of it that your preliminary practices are money in your bank account. That the real practice of what you're doing is you're accumulating yourself. Sorry, I got noise in the background. That you're accumulating a lot of money in the bank account. Now, that money then, it gets applied by your attitude. So as you have a good attitude about your life, what you're doing with yourself, where you're going with yourself, or what I like to call a meaningful life, having that in place, then that bank account of money then gets paid into that and basically increases its quality. So therefore, you really should think of the 100,000 prostrate, or let's say just, however many prostrations you do during this retreat, and then from there shifting over to doing Guru Yoga and some Vajrasattva, whatever the things that you're wanting to do, that in doing that, then you are accumulating a wealth of energy, and then that comes into your personality, and slowly things change. Okay, now, so let's just sort of look at the different practices you do as a preliminary. First is prostrations. Now, I'd like it's really important to find your own emotions in your own life and then apply them into the Dharma. Lama Yeshe, my teacher, always said that. He says, make the Dharma your own. So for example, Let's say, I don't know, what you guys do with yourself, but let's say, because you're at a certain age, maybe you got a really nice laptop that's a gaming laptop, and it has, the top end, RAM and all of the, the processor, the video card is an RTX 4070, and again, if you know what I'm talking about, that's fine. I'm saying, but then you look at it and you go, wow, that's the best, and almost like you're making a prostration to that. Or I don't know, maybe you got a nice car, or maybe you got a nice motorcycle, or maybe you got some nice clothes. I don't know what turns you on. So that's okay, nothing wrong with that sort of stuff, But what we're looking at with the prostration is we're looking at somebody that is absolutely incredibly beautiful, the Buddha. And it's not like, I like to sometimes say Mr. Potato Head. No, not at all. Buddhas are enlightened beings, and they have character and personality. I mean, Buddha Shakyamuni was a crown prince. He was well educated. He had style and presence. And I mean, that's half the reason why most of Asia became Buddhist, was because the guy was impressive. But it wasn't like this sort of impressive arrogant. It was impressive with quality and love and wisdom. I mean, incredible insight. I remember that when I first got involved in Buddhism, this goes back to 1971, my very first meditation teacher was a Zen monk in Bodh Gaya. And so I was doing meditation with him, and it was about 5 or 6 days into our little sort of retreat. And I was really enjoying it. It was like, wow, this Buddhism really it's what I want, it's my life is in my hand. I'm the creator of who I am. And that's really what sort of the Zen Buddhism is, like your body is the Buddha, your mind is the Buddha. And then I met Lama Yeshe, this first Tibetan Lama that was my big inspiration. And when I heard him talk, it was like, wow. I mean, the Zen guy's good, but this guy's profound. I mean, you could feel that he knew consciousness, and he knew the movements of consciousness. And the other thing is that he was incredibly happy. He was blissful. And so I said, that's what I want. I want what you have. And so, I mean, I didn't, I'd say I asked him to be my teacher. I ended up going to Nepal and studying with him and such like that. Now, why I'm sharing that is because in our practice as a preliminaries, we're being inspired by that. Like, so when you would do a prostration to a Buddha, don't think of it as like Mr. Potato Head. He's just sitting there and he just doesn't really care, and he's very sedate and things. No. I mean, make it full of life. I mean, maybe you've had some teachers that are really very meaningful for you. Maybe you've seen some videos. Like I often, for me, even though I only took few teachings from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, a very famous Nyingmapa Lama, he inspires me so much. And there's this wonderful movie called Radiant Moon, really moving. And so he's, for me, a huge inspiration. So if I do a prostration, for example, I do a prostration to him, and I'm just loving him and thinking, I want to be like you, and I want to have your qualities. So so you see what I mean? If you can find something that turns you on in a mundane way, whether, I don't know, whatever it might be, then turn around and say, I want that feeling with this Buddha. And so, you have to work within yourself. I mean, for example, I do have my teachers that really inspired me. I mean, there's another one called Kuna Lama Tenzin Gyaltsen. He was actually a Kargyu Lama, and he was famous for bodhicitta. He had a universal loving heart, so peaceful, so calm, and yet just universal attitude. And he was famous for that. He was one of the Dalai Lama's teachers, and yet he was basically a beggar. I mean, he didn't have any arrogance or any fancy monastery. He just lived in a little mud hut and stuff like that. But he was very famous. So again, I make a prostration to him because that's what I want. I want to have a really good nature about myself and really feel like, hey, I've got a good mind, a good heart. And yeah, there's a lot of heavy duty stuff going on in the world, but I want to be like what he is. So that's what prostration is it's a veneration, it's an admiration. And because you're doing a full body prostration with it, it's a lot more heavy karma. It's a lot stronger karma. It's not like you're just saying, oh, wow, that's nice. I mean, that's good karma. You go, oh, wow, that's nice. Now you got a little more karma because you moved your hand. Like you're accumulating energy with those activities. But you're saying, whoa, you're incredible. And then I go to the refuge of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and I do the prostration. You see what I mean? Now that's really big karma. And the thing with that is because it's a physical prostration, and then the object that you have in your mind is very special, that basically you're purifying previous physical karmas. Maybe you've killed some things in the past, whether this or previous life or whatever, or you've stolen stuff or whatever, just the physical karmas get removed. I remember that when I was young, and we went to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and when I was very young, I used to kill things. I had a gun and I used to shoot animals, and not big ones, but little ones. And I used to fish and then kill fish, and so I thought, hey, they're not very nice. I really had no sensitivity to it. They wanted to live just as much as I did. So I went to Lama Zopa and I said, hey, I used to kill things and I feel bad about that. And he said, okay, well, have you been doing prostrations and stuff? He said, don't worry, it's purified. So I thought, okay, thank you. But I still feel badly that I killed things, and I never want to do it again. It's sad to kill anything. Everybody wants to live. So I'm just sharing with you that the prostrations is a very good karma. And think of it in terms of that if you have a really good feeling in your body as you're doing a prostration, because you're putting so much into it, that's a really big karmic imprint for you. And that's what purifies things. Like karma is not like marks on your soul or something like that. Mark's just a type of habit, a type of energy that's inside of you that, sometimes I like to get angry, or I like to be a little arrogant, or I like to be, sometimes even actually, low self-esteem. I like to sort of be weak or whatever. People do all sorts of funny stuff, with their personality. Okay. So in this case, what you're doing is you're just removing that type of an attitude of maybe wanting to be harmful or being arrogant or whatever, and you're putting in place of that something that's really nice. And again, it's just think of the great lamas. They have personality, they have a dynamic about themselves. They're not milk toast or weak or feeble or something like that. They're clear, wise, peaceful, powerful, deep. So that's a prostration. Vajrasattva is actually really, really good, for the long-term practice. Why? Because I know some of you have maybe done with Lama Glenn, the 6 yogas of Naropa and stuff, and I'm not familiar with how Lama Glenn presents all of that. But what's really important basis for that is Vajrasattva. What is that? That's cleaning and combing your nervous system, because the nervous system is the basis of your tantric practice. The nervous system is the basis of your 6 yogas of Naropa, all the more powerful, profound experiences that can happen with a good meditation. So when you sit in good meditation posture, what you're doing is you're toning your nervous system. That means the channels and the chakras and things like that. It's just easier to say nervous system, but the point is that. So you sit nice and straight, and then in the crown of your head, you have an enlightened being. In fact, a union, you have the Vajrasattva and consort. So it's an enlightened couple. And from the two of them in union, coming from their genitals, which are joined, comes down a nectar. It flows into like the lotus, which is like a funnel, and then that comes down inside of your head. But it's not just sexual energy. It's beautiful, blissful energy. It's happy energy. It's your hormones all really toned up. And then it's also love and compassion, it's wisdom, it's understanding, it's knowing how to work with your karma. That's what that nectar is. It flows out of these two enlightened beings on the crown of your head. And so then you slowly have it go down in the internal part of your head. And it's combing your nervous system with good energy. And as much as you feel it's good energy, it affects you. Just think of it like, let's say today you're going to have a really nice meal and you think of it and then your mouth starts to salivate. Well, just the idea caused your mouth to salivate. Just the idea, nothing more. Okay, so if you have a bit of a feeling about enlightened energy that is positive and constructive and it's very creative, it's creative with oneself, it's creative with other people and stuff. It has the wisdom of knowing things are impermanent. It has an inspiration of being inspired by the Buddha. It knows how to accumulate karma. It knows how to deal with my delusions, the way I distort reality. That's that nectar that flows down through you. So the thing is, so you sit nice and straight and you feel it comes down. And I like to think of it, again, if you've watched the YouTube video of my talk on Vajrasattva, I talk about it, you should think of it as like, it's like a effervescent water, effervescent, so it bubbles and stuff. And so then it cleans, it bubbles, it's full of wisdom, it's full of good energy, and slowly goes down from your crown chakra, down to your throat chakra, down to your heart chakra, down to your abdomen, down to your genitals, your pelvic floor, down to your feet, and then it goes back up. So Vajrasattva, if you do good Vajrasattva practice, you're totally prepared for the completion stage practice, the 6 yogas and Naropa. If you don't do that sort of practice, I mean, yes, you could still do 6 yogas in Naropa, and yes, you might have some results, but it's sort of like your car is not tuned. So let's say you want to have a really special car that's got really all the bells and whistles and stuff and everything like that. Well, you get it all tuned up really nicely, and then you can, I don't know, drive across America or something like that, or drive across Europe or whatever. Okay, so Vajrasattva is tuning yourself, tuning your nervous system, cleaning and combing your nervous system. The 3 main faults of your nervous system is that it's blocked, it's crooked, or it's dry. So what this practice does is it makes it humid, it straightens it out, it makes everything better. So that's Vajrasattva. So that's the second one. Those 2 ones are what called cleaning things up. So you could call it purification, or you could call it moving forward. Then the next 2 are accumulation of merit. First one is Guru Yoga, and that's being inspired by your gurus. And you can have gurus in different lineages. It's not a problem, because their job is to help you become more enlightened. It's not to make you, Ningmapa, Karyupa, Sakyapa, Gelupa. No, the real job of it, they're the path. The real thing is to become a nice person, a more enlightened person. So Guru Yoga is that. And I mean, yes, there will be some teachers that are a bit more particular to their particular lineage, which is fine. I mean, I'm Gelupa. I don't teach Ningmapa, Karyupa, but I don't have a problem if somebody practices those other lineages, because it's in the concept of we're working towards becoming more enlightened. And some of those practices are really good. Okay, so Guru Yoga is that. I would tend to think that the first 2 ones you're going to be focused on are the prostrations and Guru Yoga, but within that, it's also cultivation of attitude. So just a simple thing to think of. In doing this retreat, you can say, I want to become more enlightened. I want to become a better guy. I want to understand things. Yeah, okay. So you have a certain energy in yourself. But I want you just to do this, is bring to mind someone that you love, whether it's your mother, your father, brothers or sisters, or whatever it is like that. And you basically are going to say, I'm doing it for them too. I'm going to do a little bit for them too, okay? And so there's a different feeling in your body. You can still say, I want to become enlightened, but you're just adding a quality to it, which says, I'm working for the benefit of others. Okay, so there you go. That's what I wanted to share with you. That concludes what I can offer right now. I do have other commitments, so for right now, let's do this.